Welcome to the year 2007. That's the year I bought this VW T3 or T25 16-inch Syncro, a 1991 turbo diesel Caravelle. It was used by the Finnish army as a border patrol vehicle checking the Russian border, and in 2007 I paid €5,500 for it. The idea was to use the Syncro as an advertising object for my small business. An eye-catching color obviously helps with that. I chose an orange color that I had recently seen on a new Fiat Panda. The color was a bit more striking than I had thought, but fortunately the paint faded quickly and became more brownish bronze than this very orange. Back then the paint job was around €4,500. As they do not use road salt in that remote part of Finland in winter, the body was virtually rust-free. Only some minor surface rust. It went from blue to this very new color from Fiat. It's called Samba Orange 505 and I think it was called a mica paint rather than a metallic, as it has no black in the ingredients. That also made it quite problematic for the painter, as the base paint color was visible through the final coat. And so it had to be repainted again, and a total of 14 layers, base and top coat, were applied. And yes, the painter should have used a base paint in the right color. But we didn't know back then, as I said, it was a new color. So 2007. Unfortunately back then filming with your phone was not as common as it would be now, and it would only allow for short videos and in a rather poor quality, MP2 I think. So more photos than videos, I'm afraid, but I hope you find it entertaining anyway. So I thought it would be great to use this light grey fabric for the inside. It looks very dandy, but it's impossible to keep clean. The doorboards were a custom one-off sort of thing, and I think they turned out quite well. The white mud flaps look horrible, and I swapped them for black ones later on. The original 1.6 turbo diesel 75 horsepower engine finally gave up, and I swapped it for a completely rebuilt 1.9 TDI with a custom mechanical Bosch pump with a 12mm plunger. I swapped the injectors for Fratelli ones and stayed on the safe side with about 140 bhp. I fitted this Boss muffler from Kawasaki, but I changed it later to something more simple and very sexy. The intercooler is a full welded one with a temperature controlled fan. I made an air filter box with parts of a Dodge Ram van, nice and compact but with a high airflow. If you get bored, you can always paint your drive shafts. For the suspension setup I used cycle springs and Old Man Emu shocks. Because of the lift with the new springs, I used adjustable upper control arms from Burley, made in the USA. The brakes are Audi with 312mm cross-drilled front discs and 300mm rear ventilated rotors. And then there was a fire next door. The Syncro stood without a windscreen at the time because of painting the black bit underneath the windscreen and relocating the washer nozzles. Soot got into the interior and luckily the insurance covered the deep cleaning of the van. But together with my neighbors I lost my workshop that day. It took a while, but I found a new workshop in a wonderful location. I fitted big air scoops to provide air for the intercooler, and how about these billet aluminium wheel nuts? It was not an easy decision to make, but finally it was time to cut a big hole in the roof and buy a trailer. I sort of got carried away with this thing. I widened the track, fitted the same Ronal R7 wheels, had it painted in the same color, and added so much stuff to the outside it would make a Land Rover owner jealous. Bumper time. A lot of work had gone into making the front bumper, and when it was ready I figured I wanted a winch, so I made a new bumper. And while I was at it I thought an external roll cage would also be quite a nice addition, and this took me months to make. And then there were the long-range fuel tanks. I made a wooden mock-up and then let the aluminium gods do their job in welding the whole thing together. An electric fuel pump would pump the fuel from the long-range tanks into the main tank, and they both would add about 150 liters to the 75 or so liters in the main tank. The cost of these tanks back then was about 700 euros, which in today's money is close to 2 kidneys and your firstborn child. All this time I drove around with no interior, nothing, just an empty van. If I went somewhere I had to sleep in the trailer together with the dog. So I got this I don't know, Westphalia maybe, interior, and I wrapped it in grey and had it fitted for exactly 1 week before I took it out, as I wouldn't fit behind the steering wheel anymore because of the driver's seat could not be moved back enough. So it was time for something more of my liking. And that meant many hours trying to fit as many storage spaces into a tiny van as possible. And a toilet, and a fridge, and an outdoor shower, and a diesel heater, and whatnot. I started with applying a rubber coating to the floor, then bitumen and Armaflex. I didn't want a kitchen as I don't like the whole van smelling like a cheap pizzeria, so the cooking would happen outside. I fitted a shower plug so we could shower outside. The bed was raised by 15 centimeters, so the chairs would fit underneath, and some tools. Well, a lot of tools. I mean a lot of tools and spare parts. I had a mattress custom made. I also added some rear strobe lights. In the rare event of breaking down, the rear hatch would be open to gain access to the engine, and so some extra warning lights make sense. In the front I fitted in and outside temperature displays and some extra lights and storage. I had racing seats embroidered with the Trailbreaker logo and never fitted them. Yes, I know. The exoskeleton was a very handy platform to fit a solar panel. And then we thought it would be great to buy a big tent that would connect to the van. It was massive. So I bought an awning from ARB. I even bought the side walls and all. I used them once for the picture and that's it. I carried them with me for years until I sold them. Underneath the dash I fitted a T-Max air compressor. Now that thing I used a lot, really well worth the investment. And how about my Wi-Fi setup? In the 12 and a bit years I owned the van, we did travel quite a bit, from Spain all the way to the Arctic. England, Wales, Scotland, France, Switzerland, Germany and more. Temperatures were sometimes pretty low. And it's a T3, so we broke down. And again. And some more. But in the end it was a great machine and I enjoyed her a lot.